right. Are we going live now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do we both have sound?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
All right. Hi there. I'm Luke, and I'm here with Madison today, producing.
Hi.
Say hello. Oh, hold on. I gotta do something really quick. How about we plug in the power so the camera doesn't die? There we go. All right. So
All right.
we're going to do a spring painting today because it's springtime. And I don't know, I feel like doing a spring painting. I hope you do too. I guess you wouldn't be here if you don't. So this is, it's going to look something like this. It might not be exactly like this. We're going to put some bubbly type clouds in the sky. By the way, if anyone has any questions at all, you can type them in, ask our producer Madison. She will relay the questions to me. Please post photos of your work if you would like. And anyway, we're going to get started. We need to go ahead and get some paint on our palette. So I'm going to start off with black. Don't need much. White. Come on. All right. I'll get some
Having
more
a little bit of trouble there?
Yeah. That's why I keep this handy.
Hey, it works.
Yes. All right. All right. It's white. There it goes. See, our primary colors, yellow. Ooh, that might have been too much, but blue. Can you get, is it in the shot, is it a good view of the palette, Madison?
I think we got a good view of the palette.
Cool. You guys also let us know if our volume is okay, if we need to go up, or if we're too loud, or if it sounds distorted.
We've been having some troubles today.
Yeah, it's still a learning process. We're getting it right. Red and black go a long way.
About how much paint of each color did you say we would need?
In ounces? I don't know.
No.
Milliliters?
Like, how much paint would you suggest starting out with?
Depends what the painting. If you got a lot of sky and you're gonna add a lot of blue in your sky, blue sometimes you need several coats of blue. So I tend to go heavy on the blue. I go light with the black and light with the red, and a lot of yellow if you're going to be using a lot of green and mixing your own green. It's always best to use maybe a little bit less than you think you need, because you can always put more. It's hard to put it back in the bottle from the palette. So anyway, let's see. I need water and a paint towel, and I'm using a kind of a medium-sized flat brush. Probably be using the same brush for the entire painting. If you have different brushes and you would like to use different brushes, go ahead. Adjust myself a little. All right. So, tell you what, I'm going to put this painting. I know I didn't tell Madison. I'm kind of making this up as I go along, guys. So, you can kind of see it. I can see it. But this is, I guess, the more important part. We're going to start with the background, and then we're going to put these bubbles. I'm gonna go to this painting again, Madison. I'm going to start with the background with kind of a white and a blue And it's just going to go to here because I'm going to start putting the bubbles on top of it. And then we'll put something in the foreground. Probably some birdhouses. So I'm going to start with a dry brush because I don't want to dilute my colors right now. And every time I wash the paint off my brush, I'll probably be drying it off real well to make sure I don't have too much water in my paint. I'll start out with some blue. It'll really load my brush up with this blue. And I'm going to start at the left top corner and just do kind of a diagonal stroke with the, so the wide part of the brush is making wide strokes onto the canvas. Like I said, this is not going to be exactly the same as our reference piece. Is this coming across pretty good on the camera, Madison?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's looking good.
Cool.
Nice and vibrant.
All right. I'm going to tone it down a little, I think. Oh, a lot, I think. But
Make it a little lighter, not as bright.
yeah. Oh. Maybe kind of make it look like there's some clouds in the sky. I'm not so worried about getting streaks, but I am going all the way across the canvas. I want my brush to go off the edge each time I stroke. If I stop, you see how it
You
leaves?
get little spots.
Yeah. Sometimes it's best to either stand or to sit in a stool somewhere where you get a good,
Good height.
I guess,
Yeah,
a
wide range of motion,
Wide
yeah.
range of motion, yes. There we go. I'm in a stool because, I guess because I'm lazy today. I've been working really hard. I'm going to add in some white. I'm really going to load up my brush. Notice how I'm not polluting my whole pile of white with the blue. I'm just grabbing it from the edge because I'm going to use that white in other places, and I don't want blue in it when I do that. So I know where to get my white when I'm using blue from is that side. All right, I'm going to go back to the painting here. And right on top of this wet blue paint, I'm going to put wet white paint. And that's going to start giving us a more cloudy look. Then I'm going to keep going down at a diagonal. And go back up and make it streakier with the white. But again, I'm trying to get a stroke all the way across the canvas. Wow, this is fun.
Starting to look like a sky now.
It is. All right. So I need to bring it down to at least this far, I think. I'm going to need a lot more paint.
Reckon it's about 3/4, 2/3.
The way down?
2/3. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. How do you?
That looks
at an
about
angle?
2/3.
Maybe about half, a little more than halfway. I would try to cover up
I'd say 3/4 then.
3/4.
3/4. That looks like 3/4.
Okay. Oh, I am 3/4 now. Yeah. So I'm loading up with more blue. Basically repeating this whole, the whole step. Just start where I left off. It's going to start to change to white because I already have wet white paint on there. There we go.
There it goes.
And I kind of want it to change. I want some lighter spots and darker spots. I'm going to go back and get some more white now and really load it up again. Maybe I can get all the way with this one. I might have to get some more paint.
Well, having to get more paint is better than wasting paint.
Yes, that is true.
Paint is not cheap.
This stuff is pretty affordable, what we're using.
True.
This student acrylic. And actually, I'm going to put out a list really soon. And it's a website you go to, and we have a shopping cart saved with the Art Hole Inc. name on the shopping cart, so it's really easy to find. It's at Jerry's Artorama, and it's all the colors I'll be using, very similar paints to what I'll be using, but of course you can buy paints and brushes lots of different places. So I'm going to get some more white. This is getting lighter and lighter and lighter as I go down.
We want it to look like a nice spring sky.
Yes. I wish it felt more like spring outside right now. It
Really?
feels like summer.
Summer already, yeah. It's like almost 90 degrees today.
Is it?
I feels like it. Might just be the intensity of the sun, though. Because sometimes it'll only be like 70 degrees, but the sun is so bright that it feels like it might as well be 105.
Yeah.
Depends on humidity, too. Florida's really
Yeah.
bad about that.
I complain about the cold all winter, and then it starts to get warm.
And then you wish you hadn't complained about the
Yes.
cold.
But it's the opposite, too. So, anyway, we're just going to be happy the way it is, right?
You're right. Gonna have to learn to deal.
Just blue and white. I'm just going back and forth till I get.
I'm really liking the look of this.
Well, thank you. I think that's good. I don't think I'm going to go any further because I'm going to start switching over to bubbles over here, and I'm going to have some ground coming up here, some grasses and whatnot, some stuff you might expect to see sprouting in the spring. Every once in a while, I turn my brush to get the, I'm using mostly like a wide stroke like this. Every once in a while, I turn my brush this way, and I can really get more oomph into the canvas to places that it's just not taking the paint well. Say right here, I need to squeeze it in, squeeze it in. There we go. All right. I'm ready to start with bubbles. How about you?
Sounds good. What color are we making the bubbles?
Interesting. My original painting had kind of light blue bubbles. I might make them a little purplish.
That sounds good. I think the blue,
I
I
don't
think
know.
purple will look good.
Really? I don't. I'm starting to. Okay, spring sky, light purple bubbles.
I don't know.
Start with white, and then
Decide
That-
how we want it to look.
yeah, if I can get
Sometimes in
brave
painting,
enough-
you just have to improvise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like I said, if we're brave enough, we'll make them purple. If not, we'll just keep them blue. See how it looks. You guys
not-
can make your bubbles pink if you want, or whatever you want. I
Do
don't-
not drink the paint water. Do not keep your drink next to the paint water.
That's very good advice.
It really is. You'll understand when you drink paint water.
All right, so I'm going to start at the top and just start making some round shapes.
Do these have to be perfect circles?
Nah, I'm trying to get as close as I can. But see how I'm kind of letting the brush rotate in my hand as I go around? And it turns into a circle. Now, each time I put a new circle on, it's going to overlap the circle that I just put on. And I want some of them to be in the back and some of them to the front. So I'm just going to lay them on for now. And then I'm going to go back and figure out which one's in front, which one's in back. It'll be really easy to flip them back and forth. Like if I want this one that I put on first in front now, I just have to go back to it and go around like that. Pretty cool, huh? All right, so going back to my white. And I don't want these bubbles all the same size, and I don't want them to look like they're in a straight line. I just want them kind of random.
A little scattered?
Yeah. Random is really hard. It's one of the hardest things to do in painting.
It really is. I think the
Nature
human brain
things.
naturally just wants to place things in a pattern.
I think you're right.
And even if you start doing it random at first, you start to notice your randomness has a pattern.
Yes. Randomness has a pattern. I'm not sure if that's possible.
I don't know. When it comes to the human brain, it seems like it does.
Yeah.
Seems like you'll start random and then suddenly you'll start noticing a pattern. Like you naturally want to put it in some sort of order.
You'll notice that I'm starting to lose my edges. That's fine. I'm going to come back and put them in.
That's why we use a flat brush
Yeah.
and get them a little sharp.
There we go. I'm dragging some of this background down into it as I go. Now I'm going to be painting right over. It could go to the palette. I mentioned about polluting my white. I just went ahead and did it. I know I'm going to need more white anyway, so I just went ahead and polluted my whole white. Anyway, so I actually have kind of a very light blue that I'm going on this white part of the canvas with. So it's not
Kelly
just
just
white
said,
on white.
sounds like my daughter. Wonder where she got that idea
Oh.
from. It's almost like
Does
her
she
daughter
know where
is
you are?
sitting-
She does know where you are, right?
Oh, Kelly Wellington?
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. Some weird lady. I see her in my house sometimes when I leave my room.
All right. Oh,
Should we add some size variation to our bubbles?
Oh,
or do you want to
definitely.
keep them all the same size?
no, different sizes. Little ones, big ones. I put a little bitty one. I put a great big one.
Chunky boy.
Just want to get them on right now, and then I'm going to go back and redefine them and darken some of the edges, kind of make them.
So what made you
like
decide to
bubbles.
keep the bubbles in the painting? Because I know we were contemplating taking them out.
I just don't think it would be the same without bubbles.
The bubbles add a little like fun factor to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just have a plain painting with birdhouses.
I'm going to need some more white already.
Already.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you.
Yes. Oh,
So you'll know you'll need a lot of white for this painting.
yes. There we go. All right. I'm going to just kind of continue down kind of an angle.
Ooh, look, they're getting whiter now that we've added
Yeah.
more.
I might have to start adding blue now that I got fresh white on top of white.
Kelly said it looks nice.
Okay, good. Thank you. Kelly who?
Wellington. By Ma.
Hi, Kelly. You should be painting too, Kelly.
You should. We should get paint. We should get canvases. I don't have enough paint for this. We need to get paint. We're supposed to be painting a birdhouse soon. Only we're not painting birdhouses. We're painting actual birdhouses. My dad just sanded ours down. I've got to paint it.
For what kind of birds do you think are living there? Like little,
We have a lot of cardinals and stuff that live by our house, so probably
put-
cardinals.
like bird seed in them, or they make their nest in there, huh?
They do. We had it on the porch for a while before we even sanded it down or anything, and a bird made his nest in it anyway. So we're going to put it out by the trees where the birds usually hang out. We have a bird bath down there too.
All right, I think this is good for now. These are all going to get adjusted a little bit as I go. Like I said, there's going to be some grasses over here. Let me put one more down here just to make sure I get it all the way filled up. Okay, then I want to get all this white off my brush.
Gotta clean it.
Yes, I'll smash it in the water. Pull the paint out.
I used my pants to do that one time, and the paint never came out.
Yeah.
And I just had paint stand
acrylic
paints.
paint
I think it was in your class too. I was cleaning off my brush on my pants.
Well,
They were
I
old anyway.
believe I provided everybody with paint towels, by the way.
Oh, he did. I'm just didn't want to get up and get another one because mine got wet.
So now I'm going back and adding some darkness to them here and there, and more dark around the edge, and more on one edge than the other. So kind of pick a side where you're going to put your dark on each bubble.
So does where you put them depend on where you want your lighting at?
Yeah. Of course, the light's shining through the bubble, and it doesn't shine evenly through depending on the angle that the bubble's coming at us. So
What would you
we're not
suggest?
getting really scientific about it in this painting because this is more for fun. But I'm sorry, I interrupted. What's that?
Yeah. Oh, what would you suggest is the best technique for painting them?
To get them to look like bubbles?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, letting the brush spin around your hand, and then adding a dark side, and then coming back and adding light.
So keeping like a lot of highlights in it,
Yeah. It's
make it look all bubbly.
And then we slowly, I'm using very little bit of pressure here. And it blends very nicely. There we go. All right, so kind of blending the highlight into the shadow, I guess, shadow. I don't know. I guess you call it a shadow, a bubble. There we go. I put on my shadow. Now I'm going to wipe off the paint. Come back with a very soft touch. It's just going to blend slowly. And I'll come back and add a little highlight.
So do you find it's easier to blend with a drier brush?
Yeah, well, I don't know. If the paint's depends exactly what you're doing. If the paint's really wet already, I definitely don't want water in my brush
True.
when I'm
Take all your paint away.
when I'm blending, but it definitely, the more paint, wet paint on wet paint blends a lot easier than wet paint on dry paint. But sometimes, if you don't want the two colors to mix together, you want to let it dry first. Like in this painting, I'm going to be putting streaks in the sky over here, and they contrast a lot with the blue in the sky. So if I would have put those in right away before this dried, then it would have picked up blue into the streaks. So I'm going to come back and do that later on after this is dry. But I'll also be doing some blending in the colors that I'm putting there. So is that kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
All right. Should we put purple in? I'm not going to do purple today.
Maybe
Just
another
leave
day.
them blue. Yeah. There. And I'm going through and I'm picking out which ones I want to be in front and back. Like this one right here. I'm going to bring it to the front. I'm just going to go right back around the edge. Bring it to the front. And then let's give it, I need some more blue. I'm going to give them all some shading as I go down.
So we're gonna need a lot of blue and white in this, aren't
A
we?
lot of blue and white, yes. There's a strange sound.
There is a ghost. You have a ghost?
No, yes.
Our band room has a ghost. We just call him band room ghost. Maybe that's why he's always so angry.
You know, many years ago, I learned how to play music in that very same band room in Interlochen High School. And it was brand spanking new. You know where the old band room there used to be? It used to be that little room that's right off the side of the cafeteria.
Yeah, I got
Do you know
told
what-
about that. Yeah,
Oh,
they were like,
okay.
yeah, it used to be off in like a cafeteria, and I was like, that's whack. Now we've got a nice band room. All the letters started falling off of it though, so they had to go up and replace them. There was duct tape on the keyboard. That was weird.
See how I'm using the skinny edge of my brush here to put on the shadow. And now that these bubbles are drying, I'm actually finding it easier to blend it exactly the way that I want. So
It looks
in
so
this,
nice.
In this case, wet on dry is giving me a better,
Bubbly look.
yeah, a better blending technique than the wet on wet. So sometimes we figure this stuff out as we go along.
Just gotta adjust.
Right. Oh, we're almost done here with this part. Cool. And then we can start our birdhouses. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish the bubbles. We're going to put in the birdhouses and the poles. And then we're going to put in the grasses. Weeds. I want them to look like weeds.
What kind of plants did you paint in the first place?
I don't know. I'm not a very good, what do you call it?
Kind of looks like
Botanist.
lavender.
Maybe. It
Just a little
does.
bit. The way it's painted kind of looks like lavender.
Nice spring
Like-
flowers. I don't know. Wildflowers is what I was thinking, but I don't know. Are lavenders wildflowers? Or can they be?
Lavender can grow as a wildflower. That's how it started.
I guess so.
Then people realized they could eat it and do all sorts of stuff with it. I don't think we're gonna eat our painted wildflowers though.
No.
That doesn't sound too good for your body.
All right. Couple more little shadows and we'll be done with the bubbles.
Bubbles are looking good.
Thank you. They're fun to do. But I gotta move on.
As much as we love bubbles, we can't have them everywhere.
So now I'm just kind of picking out here, kind of blurring my eyes as I look at it, and I'm picking out which ones I think need a little definition to it. I'm just, now that I have it worked out which ones are in front and back, I can come in and say this bubble's behind here, but it's missing this edge. So I'm just gonna slip it in.
Crossing your eyes makes it look better.
I like to think of it, it makes it look like it's going to, from a distance, because you're not going to look at it that close when it's on the wall. So I kind of overlapped with that other bubble, and that's okay. It's just a process of going back and forth till we get it. So now I go back to the one I overlapped on, and just
Sure
clean
thing.
it up. Bam.
And now we have nice, neat bubbles.
Yeah. Some of them are darker than others. Maybe need to get a little color in this one here.
Just a little bit. Give him some happiness. Look how nice that bubble looks.
It's a beautiful bubble.
It is. See, and all you had to do was give him a little color.
Nope. All right. So I'm gonna start putting a little bit. I'll tell you what, just a couple more. I can't quit the bubbles, Madison. What's wrong with me?
We need to stop the bubbles.
At
What
one
about our
point we did.
birdhouses? You're neglecting the birdhouses.
We'll get there. They're easy. The bubbles might be the most difficult part of this one.
How dare you neglect our birdhouses?
Now, do you kind of feel like you see like a little void right there?
Yeah, it looks a little voidy.
I'm gonna
It hides.
just there we go.
Just give us some little definition.
Yeah.
There's a bubble back there somewhere. Just a bubble waiting to
Try
come
not
out.
to overlap, but if I do, which I did, it's okay. I'll just come back and fix it like that. Fix it like that. There we go.
Hey, Mr. Luke,
Yes.
try talking just a little bit louder
Oh, okay.
when you're doing it. 'Cause I don't think it was picking you up too well a second
Alright.
ago.
All right, so there's the bubbles. Now my bubbles, no, the sky's pretty dry. Bubbles are still wet. I want 2 birdhouses, like I have here, and this other painting. I have kind of a larger one and a smaller one. And so I'm going to paint this one on the left first because the bubbles are still drying. It'll be easier to paint the birdhouse when the paint's dry. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put my streaks, don't you? The first time I did it, the streaks were an afterthought. This time, I know what I'm doing, so I'm going to put in the streaks before I put in my birdhouses. That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
The streaks are kind of supposed to represent, what do you think they look like to you?
Sun rays.
Yeah.
Little rays of
Something like
sunlight.
that. Of course, there's some green in there, but oh well. And I kind of started with a little black in the corner. Let's try just a little tiny bit of black. I like to get
Not
it.
too much black.
I like to get it on my brush when I want just a tiny bit, especially with black, because we can get really carried away with black. I get a little bit on my brush, and then I rub most of it off. And then I'm going to go back to the painting, and there we go. That's just going to start out my streaks. I know that doesn't look like sun rays yet, but
It will. That's what's important.
kind of pulls you into the painting, a little darkness on the corners sometimes.
A little black.
I'm going to wash my brush now because I don't want the black in it when I start to put my yellow streaks in. Now, I'm going to change this a little bit from my first one, and I'm going to try not to have any green in here. Now, when I put yellow on top of blue, what's going to happen?
Green.
Yes, so,
Maybe our sky's dry enough that it won't do it too bad.
but this yellow is see-through. I'm going to add, and get a little bit of that doesn't have any blue in it. And the white is more, with this paint, the white is more opaque. With student acrylics, the white is more opaque, which means you can't see through it as much. So it's going to help it to not turn green. So it's going to be a really light yellow. I don't have to mix it real good. I just kind of get it close. All right, so let's go back up here and start putting our streaks in. Again, we want to think random here too. And I guess confident strokes. If I sit here and try to do straight lines, they're probably not going to turn out real straight. But if I just don't think about it too much and just take a swipe at it, to me it's more, excuse me, it's more appealing.
Gives you straighter lines.
Yeah, you know, it's more natural looking. I don't know. A painting teacher taught me that a long time ago, that confident brush strokes, they're just more appealing to the viewer. They can sense that you confidently put that down on your painting.
Yeah, you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
You knew what you wanted.
Exactly. All right, so again, we don't want a pattern. I don't want these to be spaced exactly apart. I don't want them all to be the same size. I don't want them to evenly get larger. We want a little bit here and there.
If you paint your stand, that's okay too.
Oh yeah.
It happens.
The easels have paint all over them. So I'm using the kind of a skinny stroke. So I'm coming across it with the skinny part of the brush to get slim lines. Some of them are thicker than others. See how it's starting to turn green? I know I need to get some more paint on my brush. My paint's getting a little see-through. And I'm going to get just a touch of red in here.
Ooh, we're getting spicy.
Yeah, so it's going to be like a light orange, like peachy. The red's showing up pretty good. All right, so there we go. A little bit of peachy color in there. There we go. A little bit of white right on top of that. It's going to give me a little pink. There we go. All the way across. I think I'm going to go back with some more just yellow and white. So,
That's what I was thinking. A little more yellow and white.
yeah. What do you think so far?
Give it that sunny appeal. I like it. I think it's really bringing it together.
Thank you.
I think by the time we add the birdhouse in the grass, it'll be
Yeah.
magnificent.
Oh, I wouldn't want to finish it right now, I guess, but it'll look good. So, I'm wanting a stroke that starts up here skinny and gets wide down here. So I can take my brush, so the skinny part of it is touching the canvas, and as I go, I can start to turn it sideways, so it'll start skinny and then go thick. Hopefully. There we
Thick
go.
with 4 C's.
Thick with what?
4 C's.
Okay.
Like spelling it THICCC.
Okay.
That was only 3 C's, but
Okay. Well,
it
even
emphasizes the
thicker
word.
than that.
Oh, we want 12 C's.
So now, I think I'm reversing myself. First I said I was going to paint a birdhouse on the left first because my bubbles were drying. Then I decided to paint the streaks. So now my bubbles are dry and my streaks are wet. So let's start with a birdhouse right here. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
I'm gonna wash my brush.
You started tapping on the glass at the same time I hit the thing on the chair, and I was like, why is it making that noise?
One of those quirky accidents. All right, so I could just go with straight whatever color I want this birdhouse to be right on top of here, or I could paint it white first and then put the color in. It just depends what color I want it to be. If I wanted a yellow birdhouse, I would have to paint this white first and then put yellow on top of it. But I'm going to put a red birdhouse in there. And red is going to go on top of these bubbles just fine without white paint.
Red is a very bright color.
Yes.
Little brighter than blue and white.
Yeah. Warmer, that's for sure. And it's not going to be a full-on red by the time I get done with it. I want it to make it look a little wooden, but like faded paint, like it was painted in a shop.
Yeah.
Like something you said your dad was doing, and he sanded them down. Does he paint
Yeah.
them too?
I'm going to be the one that paints it.
Oh, great.
He's just the one who knows how to sand them down and do all that. So he took it apart and put it back together.
That sounds like fun.
I don't think he thought it was very fun, but it'll be nice to get the birdhouse up there.
So
I'll have fun painting it.
I bet you will. Are you going to paint something on it or just...
We're going to paint it like the base yellow that we have our picnic table painted, and then I'm going to paint like designs and flowers and stuff on it.
Matching birdhouses. All right, so I want this one. I want a big one here. I want a little one here. And it's going to bring dynamics to my painting, just so everything's not. If I had them side by side, it would look okay, but it'd look better if they were a little bit different. Maybe one's a little further back. Something that's further back is
Smaller.
Yeah, or it appears smaller. It doesn't
Appears
actually
smaller,
get smaller
yeah.
as it goes back, but
That's perspective.
yes, one type of perspective.
One of the many types of perspective.
All right, so just want to start with a rectangle.
Is that going to be your post?
This is going to turn into the actual house.
Oh, okay. It just gives you something to build off of?
Yeah. So you could start with a square or a rectangle. I would make it taller than it is wide, though. I don't know. Maybe it'd look good the other way around, too. I
Yeah.
can see my bubbles through it. Can you see my bubbles through it?
Yeah,
on
a
the
little
camera?
bit.
It's all right. It's going to take a couple coats.
You can't see it on the screen too well, but I can see it from here. It's okay. We'll be painting over it some more.
Yeah. All right. So there is the base of it. Now let me put the roof on it. Roof's going to overhang a little bit. So I'm just going to paint a triangle on top of my rectangle. I'm using the kind of like pretending my brush is like a knife and making a knife slice to get nice straight lines. All right, it doesn't have to be perfect. We want these things to look a little worn.
Little tattered, like they need some sanding and
Yes.
redone.
They're not brand new like Madison's birdhouses.
Actually, ours isn't brand new. It was an old one that we.
Refurbished.
Yeah. It still looks old. It'll look better when I paint it.
So you notice how the base of the triangle is larger than the rectangle. And I keep on getting bigger and bigger with my triangle. That's all right.
It's okay. Some birdhouses have big roofs.
Yeah. There we go. I'll come back and put in details. Let's see. Am I dry? Dry enough. I'm going to put my other birdhouse in here. And I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and paint this one white first so I can paint it a lighter color. Not sure what it'll be yet, but I'm going to. Maybe it'll be yellow, maybe it'll be green, but I want it lighter. So I'm going to have to paint it white first and then come back and paint the color on top of it. So this one's closer to us. It's going to be a lot bigger. And let's put it right there. Ooh, got a big old clump of white. This one might be shaped a little different. It doesn't matter. All right.
Starting to really come together.
Is it?
I think so.
I think so too. This is fun. And now I'll put on the roof. I can still see my rays and my blue sky behind it. That's all right. Once I put my color on there, it'll start to go away. Triangle. And I'm just going to fill it in with white.
You could, of course, make these any color you wanted to.
Yeah.
This is just what he's doing. You can always add your own little variety. Maybe you can paint like little designs on it, like do little flowers and detailing.
You
could do anything you felt like.
Yeah. Might want to put 3 birdhouses in there. I don't know.
Maybe you'll put a bird in the birdhouse.
There we go. Using the edge of the brush to make very straight lines. There we go. All right, I'm going to put my stands in now, my poles. And to do that, I got to wash and dry my brush. And I'm going to start with black and eventually come up with a really brownish looking pole. Putting a highlight on one side and a shadow on the other and adding a little red in. But for right now, let's just start with black. Now I'm getting a little bit more black on than I did before. So I'm going to tap my brush to flatten it, but I'm not rubbing all that paint off like I did before. And one trick to painting straight lines, this works for some people, it doesn't for others. One trick that I've figured out is to watch where your brush is going instead of where it is. What I mean by that is I'm going to start here, I can put my brush there, and then I'm going to look here. figure out where straight down is and look there, and it'll tend to go where you're looking if your canvas doesn't fall. Anyway, there we go.
That's
Then
the
I'm
way
gonna-
they,
What's
that's
that?
the way they teach you to drive too.
Yes, it
Focus
is.
on the point ahead of the road instead of,
Right.
you know,
At your windshield.
at your windshield. Yeah.
And come back, and I'm going to clean up the edges. Notice how when I'm painting the edge on this side, I'm holding my brush from this angle. That's how I get a clean line. And I'll do the opposite for the other side. There we go. Doesn't really matter how far down I go because I'm going to be putting bushes in there. So on the other side, I'm going to go from this angle. Am I blocking the view?
No, you're not.
I caught you yawning. There we go.
Try not to go any further though. You might yank that mic right off of you.
Yeah. There we go. So now I got a nice crisp line on either side. Now, while this paint is still wet, I'm going to get the black out of it, out of my brush. And while the paint's still wet, I'm going to throw in a little bit of red.
Oh no.
You know, I might not even need this pre-mixed brown, because this red and this black is going to start to get brownish. And then if I add some white, it'll get more brownish. Just kind of blending it into the black. Then I'll come back and add a highlight in a little bit. All right, so same thing on the other one. Except for I might try to make this one a little bit skinnier because I want it to look further in the distance. So look where my paintbrush is going. Bam. Right, now I'll come back and clean up my edges. Try not to knock my canvas off.
That'd be fun. You end up wearing the painting. Maybe you can spray your shirt so it stays as a little design.
Come back from this side. I actually have painted pants that I painted on purpose.
Didn't you like have a class at some point?
Uh-huh. Paint
I
your
think-
pants.
Yeah, Alyssa did it. We were gonna do it together, but I think I was doing something.
Yes, Alyssa's turned out pretty cool. I forget. She had, I forget what the word she had on there.
It was she had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure themed
Yes,
pants.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. She did it twice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, while this black is still wet, slide some red in there. There we go. All right, now I got to figure out what color I want this birdhouse to be. I'm going to start with yellow, I think, and then I'm going to add a little bit of blue and maybe a little bit of black. The black is actually, maybe you can think of it as a very, very dark green. So yellow and this black are going to make a real dark green. But I want a light green, so I'm not going to use too much of it. So let's start with yellow. Really load up my brush with yellow here. That's probably maybe not that much. There we go. This white is still a little wet, but that's okay. If I wanted it to be brighter yellow, I would wait till it dried, but it's okay just like this. Now I'm thinking that yellow wouldn't be the best color. Can you see why it wouldn't be the best color?
Yeah.
Because the streaks behind it are also yellow. And I want this birdhouse to stand out.
Definitely. They kind of look like fireworks. Like at their base right now, without all the detail and stuff, they look like fireworks.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like they're about to launch. Or like they could be launched rockets.
Right?
There you go. Right, so I'm going to try to turn this a little greener. So I really don't need to wash my brush because I'm just putting wet blue on top of wet yellow. So if I wash and dry my brush, I'm just kind of wasting time because it's all going to blend on the canvas anyway. I got a little bit of blue. For light green, we probably want less blue than yellow in the mixture of yellow and blue. Yellow and blue make green, by the way.
Wow,
Did you know
who
that?
knew?
All right. And also, I don't want this whole thing, right now it's like all a solid yellow. This is a solid red. I want it to start looking like wood. So, as I put this on, it's going to start turning green, but I'm going to make it streaky.
Ooh, it's all limey.
Yes. Yeah, it is kind of limey. We're going to fix that. That's because of the white that I put in there, I believe. It's kind of a pastelish type green.
Maybe it's more pistachio than lime. Because I feel
Pistachio?
like lime would be a little darker.
Yeah,
It kind of looks like pistachio ice cream.
yum. It's one of my favorite types of ice cream.
I love pistachio.
There, that's good. Even though I have some leftover yellow, I want that. It's making it look kind of like a wood grain. I'm going to wash this off my brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of black in it. The reason why I'm washing my brush is so the black will have more of an effect. If I left it on, it would just all kind of blend, and I really don't want it to blend. This time I am going to use very little black, so I want to wipe most of it off and make sure I have a nice edge on my brush. You just want some horizontal, vertical lines.
I mean, maybe your grain is sideways.
It could be.
Very possible.
Now, I don't want it to be black. I want it to blend in as I put it on. So that's about how I think I'm good with that. All right, so before I start on this one, I'm just going to start off with some of the details on here. It's got kind of a roof that overhangs, which is going to leave a shadow. I'm going to get any green that might be off the brush, on the brush, off the brush. Make sure it's really dry. Get a tiny bit of black again. And I'm going to put a shadow that this overhanging roof is leaving. So just right down the edge, just like that. I'm going to go back and get some more black because when I put that stroke on, it picked up some of that wet paint. And I want it to be black, not grayish. So remember, the side that you want to be crisp, you want to come at it from the opposite side. There we go. Two shadows. Now we want to add a little depth like these. We're looking right at the face of the birdhouse. And we don't see the sides because we're looking right at the face, but we're kind of looking up at them. So we are going to see where this roof hangs over. We're going to see that start to go back. That's going to be like right there and right there. It's going to help us to add a little depth. So let me just kind of put a little tiny bit of a shadow on the side there. This side's turn out more like a highlight. There we go. And if you have a small brush, you might want to use it for this. If you don't, if you're just using this medium flat brush, you can get a little bit of black, wipe most of it off, and then just use the very corner of the brush to fill it in. What do you think? Is that giving it some 3D-ness? Madison?
To me.
All right, let's start working on, actually, before we get to the other one, let me go ahead and put my bird hole in there.
Birds can't get in the birdhouse if there's no hole. for them to
No, it might be on the other side, but
Maybe.
that wouldn't be an interesting painting, would it?
That wouldn't be as fun. Back view of a birdhouse.
The birdhouse's backyard. So I'm using the corner of this brush here, and I'm making this circle. I'm starting smaller than I want because it's going to take me a couple times around to get it round, and each time it goes around, it gets bigger. So I started small and slowly get bigger. Then it turns out just right. Happy little hole in the side of the birdhouse.
Sounds like something Bob Ross would say. Happy little hole.
There. All right. And we'll figure out the stick here in a little bit. That's a little tricky because if you're looking straight at it, the stick coming straight at you, we'll try to figure out which side we're looking less straight at because it'd be hard to look exactly straight at
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
So whichever side we're looking less, whichever side we're, if we're a little bit more to the left, we'll see the stick come out a little bit to the right. If we're more to this side, then we'll see the stick come out that way. So,
Just depends on where we're at.
all right. So same process. Going to put in some shadow. Oh, I didn't put in the grain on this one yet. I will. Shadow for the roof. And before I put in the hole, I need to put in some wood grain. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of black, a little tiny bit of red, more red. Get it so I got a very rich red and black mixture. And since that black is really kind of like a really, really dark green, it's going to start to turn brownish. All right. Is that showing up on the?
A little bit, yeah.
All right. Anyway, it's really, really dark red. Ooh, that's too dark. It's all right. I'll go back over it with some red.
Almost everything is always fixable.
Yeah. There we go. Again, I'm using the skinny part of the brush to get skinny lines. All right. Now I'm going to go for straight red. Let me get this black out of the brush. And since that black is still wet on the canvas, the red is going to blend with it. And there we go.
That's what we wanted.
Yeah. Give me kind of a wooden look. All right. Now let me put my shadows on this roof too. Just little triangles on either side. One there. And one there. Fill it in. This is really hard to do with a big brush, by the way. I would suggest
Maybe
a
have,
smaller brush.
maybe have some different size brushes.
Yeah,
That way when you gotta cover bigger areas,
That-
you got a bigger flat brush.
it's good to have different size brushes, but, you know,
Mr. Luke breaks the rules.
I do. So if we saw, what do you think? If we can see the bottom of the roof, what else are we going to see the bottom of?
The birdhouses.
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Because it's like the same plane, right? And so I'm going to do the same thing. Little triangle goes that way, little triangle that goes that way. Just going to sort of suggest it. Leave the pole in there. There. Something like that. We can always come back and
Clean things up.
Yeah. Tidy it up. That's the word I was looking for. Let me go back with a little more black, make it a little darker. And I'm going to go ahead and put my bird hole in the red one. My rule for brushes is I use the biggest one I can get away with. Because that goes back to that confident stroke thing. There. Let me clean up, tidy up the bottom of this now with the edge of my brush. There we go. Do the same thing over here. All right, so which side? I think both of these, I'm seeing more shadow on this side. So that would mean
I think we're
further
looking at
to
it.
the left
Yes, left.
than to the right. So the stick is going to stick out. Both of them are going to stick out a little bit this way. It's going to go down just a little bit and off to the side. It's not going to be as long as you would think because you're looking right at it. There's foreshortening. Here we go. And it's really hard to see. So I'm going to put a highlight on it. Which side do you think the highlight would be on? Where's the light source?
The light source is coming from the left.
From the left and from above.
Yeah, above.
So we want to put the highlight on the top.
Give it a little shiny shine.
Yeah. That was a little thick, but it works. There.
Thick with two C's.
There we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my bushes. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Sound like fun?
Little wild grasses.
And yes, wild grasses and I don't know if I can make it look like lavender again. I think that was an accident.
It doesn't look too much like lavender, but a little bit.
Okay, so it's hard to add in shadows after you've painted a bunch of grass, and when you see a bunch of grass, you see mostly shadow. So in order to not have to go back and put little tiny shadows in between my blades of grass, I'm going to put in the shadows first. And that's makes it a lot easier. So I use quite a bit of black, but I'm rubbing my brush on my palette so I get a nice blade on it. And I'm going to do my shadows kind of in the shape of the grass. So I want some of them to curve to the left, some of them to point to the left, some of them to point to the right. Some thicker, some thinner.
Not all the grass ever points the same way.
Yeah.
They all got to be a little different.
I've seen some golf courses that I think every blade of grass was exactly the same size.
I don't trust golf course grass. It makes me itchy.
Right. Now, remember, we're not trying to make this look like grass. We're trying to make it look like the shadows in the grass. There's going to be more shadow at the bottom than the top because it's thicker at the bottom. And so as we put the paint on, what I'm doing is I'm lightening my pressure. So I start pressing just barely. As I start my stroke, I barely let up on it, and that's going to give me sharp little finish to my stroke. Gives me more black at the bottom than at the top. Go right over those poles that are holding up the birdhouses. You know what I forgot to do?
What?
I forgot to add highlights onto my poles. I'm going to have to do that here before I finish my shadows. But right here where this diagonal is, I want to make sure I get shadows going over that. So pretty much the whole across the bottom is going to be black. And then going up into streaks. This is fun, actually.
Until you stab yourself in the eye with it.
I'm not going to do that.
I said that once before I stabbed myself in the eye with my paintbrush, so
Ooh, that might have hurt, huh?
a little bit. I mean, it was with the brush side, so.
Oh, okay.
And it was just water, so I didn't actually have paint on it. I was wetting the thing I was painting. I don't remember what I was painting. It wasn't a canvas. I was painting some object.
All right, I finished my shadows. Now I'm gonna go back and do what I forgot to do, which is put highlight on my poles.
Yeah, don't forget to do that.
Okay, I won't. All right, I'm gonna use white, and I'm gonna carry the white into the pole a little bit. Now it does make sense that the light is coming from this way. So it's putting a highlight on top of the sticks that are sticking out, and something that goes up and down, it would put a highlight on the right-hand side here. So, the same way I did with the black to get a nice skinny line, and I do with the white. Rub it off onto my palettes. Just work my brush here until I make sure I got a nice, might even look at it to see.
Drag it across your forehead.
All right. Very light pressure here. The harder I push, the thicker the line's going to be.
We don't want lines that are too thick.
I'm going to show you two ways to do this. That was one way. And you might find it easier another way. When I put on this one, I'll show you. All right, so here is another way. This one I just went all the way down. And I was actually able to kind of control myself with my finger braced on the canvas. This one, I can't. My pinky's not long enough to do that. So I'm going to put it on piece by piece by piece. That way I don't have to do it all in one long stroke, but it's still, I get confident paint strokes. All right. I like that. I was going to bring more white into the middle of the pole, but I like that the way it is.
Very subtle.
All right, so my shadows here are still a little bit wet, and that's good. I'm going to get quite a bit of yellow. And when I put yellow on top of this black, what's going to happen?
It's gonna make green.
Green. And I want lots of different shades of green. So I'm going to use yellow, and I'm going to put different amounts of it in. Now I'm kind of making my grasses. I don't want them defined too much, just suggesting it. See how I started to run out of yellow? Come back and get some more.
A lot of yellow doesn't go very far away, does it?
Well, the black is eating it up. There we go.
The black eats everything.
So you can tell the parts of the black that have dried. They didn't turn very green, but that's good because I'm getting highlights, and at the same time as I'm getting my green in. See what? I'm going to put a little bit of blue in there and then go back across it with some yellow. It'll be kind of a brighter green than the yellow and black made. While it's still wet, get some yellow. Go across my blue. There we go. And you notice how that's given us lots of different tones of green. Really don't want any blue, so wherever I had blue in there, I'm going back over it. with the yellow and making it into green. And let's make some really long ones here and there, not everywhere, just there. A few, maybe one goes that way, maybe one goes this way, maybe one goes there, maybe one goes there. This is fun. All right, so let's put some wildflowers in. Now, we could get a teeny tiny brush and paint these little perfect little flowers, but that's not really the way we see things. We can't focus on a whole bunch of things at once. We see most things blurry while we're focused on one thing. I think these birdhouses are pretty in focus, don't you? Mm-hmm. So everything else is going to be kind of blurry, including our flowers. It'll actually look more realistic to paint the flowers unrealistic, because if everything is painted realistic, it just won't look like anything you've ever seen, because you can't focus on that much stuff at once. I can't.
Exactly.
Can you?
No.
Glad to hear that. Make me feel bad if everyone else could and I can't.
No, I'm blind. Don't ask me.
Maybe some people can. I don't know.
I don't know.
Let us
But there's
know
always-
if you can focus on everything at once. Let me know, because I want to know how you do it.
I will call you a liar and a thief.
So I'm going to mix a little white with a little red to get what?
A little white with little red, we're gonna get pink.
Yes.
This will make up for the lack of like purple and pink we put in the bubbles.
Yeah. You can make yours as pink as you want. But check this out. I'm not blending a huge amount of color. I'm just swiping a little white, swiping a little red, and you see the different amounts of red and white within that. I'm really not mixing a pink. I'm just putting the two colors together so they will
Did not
make
mean
that. What's that?
I accidentally changed the view on the camera.
Oh, okay.
I was like holding it, getting ready to change it, and then it just like changed.
Well, okay, I'm going to stab my brush onto the palette. And what that's going to help me do,
Don't poke a hole through it though.
I'll try not, it's pretty tough. What that's going to do is give me a bunch of little tips of different colors. So when I go to put in my flowers,
Ooh, those
See?
are pretty.
and I'm changing the angle, keeping kind of a diagonal, not too diagonal, and I'm changing it back and forth when I put it in. Again, we don't want patterns. And don't worry about if they're exactly connected to these blades of grass. In fact, they're not really growing from the grass anyway. We'll put some stems in there. All right, that's enough of that particular color. Let's put just a little bit. I like that color.
It's a very nice pink.
No, thank you. It is. There, that's enough of that. All right, let's take this out, and let's put a little bit of pure red in there.
Ooh.
Yes, this is the fun part. This is going to finish up this painting to these flowers. So, again, I stabbed at my palette. That's why this is fun, because you get to bang on things.
Yeah, you get to put all your rage.
Yes, and towards the end of the painting, my paintbrush starts to get a mess, and it's a good time to see. They show up as little dots. Now, I'm not doing it right on top of the pink. I'm doing it right by it. Bam, 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 bam.
Get a little trigger happy.
Bam, 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 bam. All right.
If no one sees me after this video, you know why.
All right. So let's add in a little bit of blue, and then we might get that kind of lavender color. So blue and red and white. So tell you what, we'll add a little bit of blue to our pink over here, and that's going to give us some nice, very light purple. Stab my canvas. See, I can test my color on my palette. I told you we weren't going to, Told you we might not use that brown, and we didn't. We didn't even need it. Yeah, I like that. So let's put some of that kind of lavenderish in there. And each time I stab this, it's making my brush even more messed up, which is helping me do it even better. All right.
If your painting goes flying off the stand, we know why.
Yeah, make sure your painting's fixed.
His isn't.
It
He's going to
is.
learn his lesson eventually.
Nah, it's good. It's got a big wide.
I don't know. It looked like you were
Bar
about to
behind
send the stand flying off the
I-
table.
I
I'm not
could-
really worried about the painting. I'm worried about the stand.
I could be. Oh, the whole stand.
Yeah, the whole stand's like rocking.
This might make it a little more sturdy. I actually have it set straight. I like paint straight up and down. If it's leaned back, I'm not seeing it in the right perspective. There's foreshortening to what I'm, unless I'm leaning into it like that. All right, let's tell you what, just a little bit of highlights, and I'm just gonna stab my white. Make sure it's coming out right. It's not, yeah, it's good. Oh, so, little highlight, 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 highlight. There. All right, that's good. Now, one last step. Now that I have my flowers in, I'm going to put a couple stems for those flowers because you generally don't see flowers growing right off a blade of grass. So the grass was, just kind of helped me aim for different spots or whatever there. And it's still in the background. So I'm going to go for a skinny stroke again. So I got to get I've been mistreating my paintbrush with my flowers. So now I have to treat it really nicely and gently.
You're going to make your paintbrush cry.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm comforting my paintbrush back into a nice, can you see that? See how sharp that is? And if I you could do this with a tiny round brush, but what's going to happen is you're going to run out of paint. Run out of paint. And now a long round brush, like a liner brush, you could roll it in there and then just kind of roll it out. But I'm going to use this. This, I have quite a bit of paint across that. In fact, it started to separate again. The longer you wait, because while I was talking, my paintbrush hair started to spread out. But I can pat it back. All right. Now let me go right to it. I won't start talking. Just very little pressure. There we go. Very little pressure. There. And these aren't straight lines. I'm curving them a little bit. I have a little lip at the bottom that keeps my canvas from flying off, as Madison would like to see it do. And it's not going to.
It'd be a little funny. We wouldn't want to ruin a pretty piece, but it'd be a little funny.
Yeah. I might not laugh. She might laugh.
I'd probably laugh.
I would eventually laugh, just not right away. All right. Gentle with the brush. Get it nice. Look at it. Make sure it's nice. Go right to it before it starts to spread out on me.
Considering we spent an hour and 18 minutes on this, yeah, I think you might be a little upset if it goes flying off.
That's about how long our art classes are. An hour to sometimes an hour and a half. Elementary classes are usually an hour. More advanced ones are maybe an hour and a half. This is for any age here. Let's see, I'm going to put a stick coming off the stick. Bam. Like that. All right, let's do a couple more. And then I think we'll call it a finished spring painting. Let's have one that crosses. That makes it look nice. see, let's bring a stick up in here, holding these flowers up. What's holding this flower up? Maybe that stick. I'm not very good at gardening, so this is what I have to do instead. I have to paint my garden.
Maybe you can get like a bunch of like sidewalk and stuff around your house and just paint it. Be like, these are flowers.
I can do that. You know, I've seen some neighborhoods like that where people paint flowers all over their
Yvette
houses.
said that, I feel like I'm butchering this name, but she said her bubbles didn't go down far enough.
Oh, well, in that case, bring your shadows up higher.
Yeah, cover it.
And bring some grasses up into them. Bring your grasses up higher. So if your bubbles didn't go down far enough, there. I might need to add a couple of shadows there. Anyway, I'm going to call this finished. I'm going to put my initials on it.
Gotta always sign your work.
Yeah. I don't have a little brush to do my cursive name, but I do have a way to sign it. Yvette, can you send me a picture of your painting? Hopefully you can get it by bringing the grass up. So I have an easy way to sign my initials because it's LT, and they're just straight lines. L T. All right. So this is my little spring painting, and please, if you paint along with us, send us a picture and let us see what you did. And even if you didn't catch us live and you paint it later, go ahead and send us a message. And we're going to continue doing these classes, so keep up with us. And I guess we'll see you next time.
See you later.
All right, bye.